Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where I take a look at all the new comic books coming out on either October 24th or 25th, 2023. And I ask myself the question, what one new comic book would I buy this week if I could buy just one book? There are a ton of comic books to talk about this week. This video is likely to be fairly long, but I'm going to endeavor to move through each book as quickly as possible to try to make this video as short as possible. Please try to hang in there with me. Here we go. Let's start off first by taking a look back at my pick from 2 weeks ago, which was Midlife, or How to Hero at 50, issue number 1. And the question remains, was it a worthy and worthwhile book to be my just one book pick of the week? The answer is sure. Not a resounding yes, definitely not a resounding no, just a sure. It was good. I enjoyed it. My hesitation comes from the fact that it's hard to know if a comic book is good or not after just one issue. There's not very much time or content available in one issue of a comic book to make that kind of determination. What I will say is that it's an interesting premise, well written, with an interesting main character, but it focused mostly on generational things. What is it like for this character to be turning 50, be coming from Generation X, and coming to terms with, what that means in today's world. Very little about the superhero aspect of it, because that wasn't really awakened or discovered until the very end of the book. So I do think it has a lot of potential. I do think that it is good. Will I keep reading it? Probably not. In a world where it's going to take a lot to get me to pick up a new title, I'm going to say no. But I'm very glad to have issue number 1 in my PC, so no complaints there. If you read Midlife or How to Hero at 50 issue number 1, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it down in the comments. All right, let's go ahead and move forward and take a look at the books that are coming out this week. Once again, there are a lot of them, so hang in there with me. The first honorable mention I have for you is Amazon's Attack, issue number 1 from DC. Basically, in the world of DC right now, there's a lot of pushback on Wonder Woman and the Amazons, and this is them responding to that with this team of, at least mostly, people from Themyscira. That's the name of the place, right? Yeah. So if you're a fan of the deeper kind of backstory and world of Wonder Woman, this might be a book worth picking up this upcoming week. The next book I want to tell you about is another new book. It is called Alan Scott, The Green Lantern, issue number 1 of a 6-issue limited series from DC. DC has been bringing back all of these golden age superheroes and kind of like, giving them a new life here in 2023. That's cool. I think it's a good time for that, so that's interesting to me. But I'm not going to pick this up. Even though I'm a big, gigantic Green Lantern fan, I'm not particularly interested in opening this can of worms, so I'm not going to pick this up, but you might consider if you are interested in finding out more about the Golden Age Green Lantern. And especially if you're interested in that, you'll be interested in this next book I want to tell you about, which is All American Comics 16 Facsimile Edition. It introduces, as you can see right here on the cover, the original Green Lantern from the Golden Age. So if you're looking for more history, more backstory, more information about the original Green Lantern, this $6.99 facsimile will help get you there. The next book that I want to tell you about is a new book. It is called The Prism, issue number 1 from Ablaze Publishing. This is an interesting one. It's a really weird concept. Basically, the world in the future is rife with noise pollution. It's a big problem. So what they do is they send a supergroup of musicians into space to record an album that is going to counteract the noise pollution back down on the earth below. Sounds really weird, right? I agree. It could either be the coolest, most interesting, original story concept that we've had in a long time, or it could be complete garbage. As a music fan, I'm curious to read it, but as a person who's trying to not spend too much money, I'm not going to pick this up this week. It didn't really sell me. But points for being original and interesting, and if that triggers you in a positive way, maybe you consider picking it up this week. The next book I want to let you know about is another new book. It is called Howie the Hellhound, issue number 1 from Scout Comics. There were a couple of Scout Comics books that came out this week that I was like, I'm not going to mention this one. And I was hoping that I wouldn't have to mention this one either to keep the list down to a minimum. But then when I started thinking about it, I was like, I got to tell people about this one. It's basically about one of Satan's hellhounds escapes hell for the world above, our world, and just wants to be a normal dog and finds an owner, and they team up and they're happy. Well, Satan's not too stoked about losing one of his hellhounds, so he's gonna try to get the hellhound back. But the hellhound doesn't want to go back, neither does the new, owner, parent. So there's going to be tension there and conflict there. That sounds interesting, and it actually sounds like it has a little bit of a young adult kind of vibe to it. So if you're looking something kind of fun and maybe a little spooky and scary this Halloween season for a younger person, possibly Howie the Hellhound might be one worth picking up and checking out. The next book I want to mention to you is another new book. It is Gone, issue number 1 from Distillery Media, LLC. Several weeks ago, I told you all about The Devil's Cut from Distillery. It was the first published stuff from this new publisher, Distillery. I am extremely optimistic about the future of Distillery and of the stories presented in The Devil's Cut. Gone is the first story from The Devil's Cut that is getting its fully fleshed out ongoing series. That's great. So this, whereas The Devil's Cut was kind of a bunch of previews, this is all gone, front cover to back cover. This is being written and drawn by Jock. This is Jock's first creator-owned title that he is the writer and the artist for, so you figure he has a lot invested, that he's going to put his best foot forward, and it might be quite good. It's basically about a young girl who stows away on a spaceship and the conflicts that come from that. It sounds pretty interesting. I am going to be picking this up. I am going to be checking it out. I am interested in it. It is a $9 book, but it's in a prestige format. I think there might be something worth checking out there, but ultimately I still think The Devil's Cut is more appealing from a spec potential because of all the first appearances it has in there. And the first appearances, there's probably other first appearances in this book for this title, but I think the main Gone first appearances will be in The Devil's Cut, but this might have some spec potential down the line as well. But more importantly, I think it just might end up being an interesting story. The next book I want to tell you about is a new book. It is called Edenwood, issue number 1 of a 5-issue limited series from Image Comics. Basically, all I'll say is there's an eons-long series of multiverse wars between demons and witches, and the final battle is taking place on Earth. There's a lot more in this description about how it is some deep, sci-fi fantasy stuff going on in this. So if you are really into some deep sci-fi fantasy stuff, I would recommend looking up information on Edenwood, read the full description, see if it's something that might be interesting to you, because if you are into that kind of stuff, this probably could be very cool for you. And if you're not into this kind of stuff, you're definitely not going to be interested in this book. The next one I want to tell you about is another new book. It is called Blitmap, issue number 1 of a 6-issue limited series from Titan Comics. The description says that it's a thrilling new sci-fi series set in a blah, 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 blah. I really don't care about the premise. What I want to talk about with this book is the fact that they are selling this book in a blind bag. So what you're seeing is it's in a silver, plastic bag. You can't see the book at all. And there's one of 3 covers inside each blind bag. And you buy it, and then presumably you open it up, which might hurt some of the collectability, but it's the only way you can read it. So if you want to read it, obviously you have to open it. And then you'll see which one of 3 covers you received. I actually don't know if I love this idea or really hate this idea. It's kind of fun, the idea of blind bags and ooh, am I going to get if there was one that was rare or something, the one cover that was rare could be more fun and stuff like that. Anyways, I just think it's an interesting concept that I haven't seen somebody do before. Blind bag, you know, 1 of 3 inside each one. So maybe it's something we're going to see in the future. At the very least, I wanted to just put the fact that this kind of thing is happening on your radar. The next book I want to tell you about is X-Men, Days of Future Past, Doomsday, issue number 4 of a 4-issue limited series from Marvel Comics. I mentioned this one because I'm buying it. I'm a big X-Men fan from this era, Claremont era. This story, fleshing out the events that led up to the future that they experience in the Days of Future Past story that was originally told by Claremont, has been really good. It's been really entertaining. It's been really fun. And so I'm enjoying it. This is the last issue. I'm going to be picking it up and reading it. The next book I want to tell you about is Marvel Zombies, Black, White, and Blood, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. It's almost Halloween. It's the spooky month of October. Marvel Zombies is fun. Bottom line, if you like fun, then this might be for you. But it's not much more than that. It's basically just fun, cool storytelling. And I've mentioned before that I'm a big fan of what-if storylines, and this is like kind of in a lot of ways the ultimate what-if storyline. It's a lot of fun to put these characters in this type of circumstance. I haven't exposed myself to a lot of this directly because I can kind of like, oh, that sounds like fun. I'm getting my fun in other places. I don't need to get my fun from there as well. But if you're looking for a place for fun in the Marvel world with a spooky vibe, this is where I would point you to this upcoming week. The next book I want to tell you about is another new book. It is Hallows' Eve, The Big Night, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. Once again, Halloween is coming up and Marvel Comics is celebrating by giving us a Hallows' Eve special. I do believe it is a one-shot. Hallows' Eve has been around for just a little bit under a year. I know this because I remember when Hallows' Eve first premiered last November. I thought, wow, what a miss that was, not having this come out before Halloween. Well, Marvel's trying to correct that mistake this year by giving us a Hallows' Eve special in advance of actual Halloween. So if you wanted something Hallows' Eve on Halloween, here you go. The next book I want to tell you about is a new book. It is Captain Marvel, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. We all know who Captain Marvel is, so I don't need to tell you anything about that. This is a new ongoing series featuring the character, and obviously this was timed to coincide with the Marvel's movie that is coming out in just a few weeks. I mentioned last week, I think it was, there was like a Marvel, Captain Marvel like special story thing, and I said it's because the movie's coming out. Same thing with this. We have a new ongoing from Captain Marvel coming out. Thanks to the movie, there's a lot of great covers, so if you're a fan, you're stoked. But basically, this is on the shelves so that if people see the movie and they really like the movie, they have something that they can pick up afterward. The next book I want to tell you about is another new book. It is called Slow Burn, issue number 1 of a 5-issue limited series from Boom Studios. Here's part of the description. Fleeing a botched robbery in New York City, a junkie, her dying partner, and a dementia-ridden old man pull into a coal mining ghost town in central Pennsylvania. Obscured by the caustic mists spewed forth by the coal seam fire from the 1960s still burning, Trier is the perfect place to lay low, score a fix, and take a hostage. Or is it? Okay, so it's some criminals hiding out, and that's an already bad situation, and then they are in, apparently wherever they're hiding out creates a new bad situation. Sounds like it could be an interesting story. If it sounds interesting to you, I'd look more into it and decide for yourself if it's worth picking up. The next book I want to tell you about is Something is Killing the Children, issue number 34 from Boom Studios. Those of you who watch these videos on the regular know that I am a gigantic Something is Killing the Children fan. It is my favorite book out there, and James Tynion IV is by far my favorite writer. I love this book so much. It always delivers. The storyline's been delivering. We're just right at the end of this like novella, this 15-issue kind of story that's being told here. So things should really be coming to a head with this issue and the next issue. I am very personally quite excited about it. The next book I want to tell you about is a book called Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, issue number 10. I mentioned this book because I have been a fan of Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. It's one of those books that I picked up with issue number 1 because it sounded good, and I have stuck with it because the story has kept me engaged. Jason Aaron, as writer, is doing a fantastic job with his take on a version of a possible, albeit kind of sometimes wacky, but fun and also like dark, post-apocalyptic future. I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm pulling it this week, and so I wanted to let you know about it. All right, those are all of my honorable mentions. Hopefully I got through them fairly quickly. That leaves us with the one book that I would buy this week if I could buy just one book. And that book is Universal Monsters Dracula, issue number 1 of a 4-issue limited series from Image Comics. Here's the description. Miniseries premiere. The biggest names in comics resurrect the most iconic monsters. The Department of Truth creators James Tynion IV and Martin Simmons reteam to tell a new tale of the monster who started it all. When Dr. John Seward admits a strange new patient into his asylum, the madman tells stories of a demon who has taken residence next door. But as Dr. Seward attempts to apply logic to the impossible, his surrogate daughter Lucy begins to fall under the spell of the twisted Count Dracula. Okay, so first and foremost, Universal Studios and Image Comics are going to be putting out multiple series, I guess, featuring Universal monsters, some of the classic horror monsters from cinema specifically. Dracula, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, other ones include, I think, like The Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, a bunch of other, Invisible Man, some classic horror monsters. We're starting off with probably the biggest daddy of them all, the classic original Dracula. And Image and Universal were very, very, very smart in enlisting the help of the greatest writer in modern comics writing, James Tynion IV, to kick off these new series of featuring Universal monsters. So the classic Dracula of it is appealing to me. The James Tynion IV is extremely appealing to me when it comes to my interest in this book. Now, one thing I'll say about that really quickly is that James Tynion IV is pushing really, really hard for his own creator-owned stuff. That's his main focus. So is he going to do Dracula justice? I think so, yes. The other licensed product, or not original product of his that he's working on right now, is the Sandman Universe, The Glass House, and that has turned out to be really, really great, and these aren't his characters. So I've really been enjoying that, and so I expect him to knock Dracula out of the park. And when you include the art of Martin Simmons, whose art was fantastic for the Department of the Truth, and the way it's kind of like disconnected and disjointed, his multimedia and his painting style worked really well in the Department of Truth. I think it's also going to work really well with this Dracula title. I know that they're doing a thing where when Dracula's like powers, when the effects of his influence are manifesting, they manifest as kind of like additional brighter color in the drawing and in the art that's there. I think Martin Simmons is gonna do some really cool, really great, really interesting things with this title. So this has a lot going for me. I will also admit, I've felt that a lot of vampire stuff is a little played out, but because this is the original Dracula, because this is James Tynion IV and Martin Simmons, this seems like it could be really, really cool. And considering the fact that Halloween is right around the corner, I'm super pumped about this book. And that is why Universal Monsters Dracula, issue number 1, is my just one book pick for this week. Oh man, if I got this in under 20 minutes, I'll be very surprised. Let's hope I did. I'll find out in just a minute. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, likes are appreciated by me. And if you haven't already subscribed, I invite you to do so right now. Once again, thanks again for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.